Hello, and welcome to the Spicy Pod Sleep Stories. I am Michael, and tonight we will step into a palace of secrets and silk. She's a rebellious heiress, slipping past every guard. He's the brooding bodyguard sworn to protect her. They clash like fire and steel, but when danger draws close, protection turns intimate, and rules begin to break. She was born into a life of diamonds and diplomacy, an heiress, a princess, the kind of woman who had her champagne poured and her schedule carved in gold. The palace sat high above the glittering city, nestled behind iron gates and rose-draped walls. Inside, it was all polished marble and quiet echoes, the kind of place where whispers traveled farther than footsteps. And in the west wing, behind a half-closed door, a girl lounged barefoot on the velvet armrest of an antique sofa, wine glass dangling from two fingers. She was trouble in a silk robe. Juliana Lise Devereaux, heiress, press darling, whispered about Royal, daughter of old money, scandal, and 6 failed security details. She had a laugh that made headlines and a habit of slipping out past midnight, trailing perfume and flashbulbs behind her. And she didn't care for rules, not the palace curfews, not the security briefings, not the suffocating entourage, especially not the new bodyguard assigned to her detail. She didn't follow rules, she rewrote them. So when the new bodyguard walked in, unannounced, unreadable, unshakable, her first words weren't hello, but "You're not what I ordered." He was all muscle and silence, a wall in a suit, ex-military, low-born, with eyes that didn't flinch, and a past he didn't share. He was paid to keep her safe, to stay close. He stood in the doorway like he'd been carved from shadow, broad-shouldered, clean-shaven, a gun holstered beneath the tailored cut of his suit. His name was Connor Ward, though she wouldn't know that yet. To her, he was just another man sent to babysit her, another suit who thought protection meant control. But he didn't flinch, didn't smile, just said, "Ma'am, your detail begins now." And just like that, the game began. She tested him immediately, rose to her feet with a languid stretch, letting the robe slip just slightly off one shoulder. "Do all the palace dogs come with that kind of growl?" she asked. He didn't take the bait, didn't glance where most men would, just handed her a file of threats she'd already dismissed. "Your previous guard was sloppy. The latest message used your private route to the stables. It's inside intel. I don't care if you like me, princess. I care that you're alive." The way he said princess, not reverent, not mocking, just cold, made something spark low in her spine. She hated him already, and yet she didn't tell him to leave, because there was something about the way he stood, like he saw through every layer she wore, silk and sarcasm alike. Something in the way his voice stayed calm even when she stepped too close, something that made her wonder how far she could push him before he broke, and something in him, tight, restrained, wondered the same about her. The silence between them stretched like a thread pulled tight. Juliana moved first, the lazy sway of her hips more defiant than flirtatious. She wandered toward the tall windows, moonlight catching on the silver embroidery of her robe. She didn't look back at him, but she could feel the weight of his gaze, ice cold, unimpressed, unflinching. It annoyed her more than she'd admit. "So," she said lightly, "how long do these babysitting assignments usually last before you beg for reassignment?" He didn't answer, just stood near the door, arms crossed, a statue of restraint. She turned, tilting her head. "You think you'll last longer than the others? I know I will." That answer, quiet, confident, irritated her in a way that made her toes curl against the floor. "You don't even blink when I test you. Most men at least stutter." He answered calmly, "I don't flinch at pretty distractions, ma'am. I neutralize threats." She walked closer, her smile like a blade wrapped in silk. "And which am I?" He stared at her. "A beat. 2. We'll find out." The air between them turned heavy, heated. Still, he didn't touch her, didn't crack, just watched. And that, more than anything, made her reckless. Later that night, when the manor quieted and the house lights dimmed to a soft golden hum, she waited until the guards rotated. Then she slipped into the shadows, barefoot and silent, heart pounding with the thrill of the escape. She didn't get far. At the garden gate, a shadow peeled away from the ivy-covered wall. He was there, waiting. "I said don't disappear," he said calmly. "I didn't disappear," she replied, breathless and flushed. "You just blinked." He stepped forward. "Try that again, and next time, I won't be polite about it." "Good," she said. "I hate polite." For a moment, they simply stared at each other in the soft light, rain misting the stones, the distance between them crackling. She swore he almost stepped closer, but instead, he held the gate open. "Go inside, princess." She didn't move. His voice lowered. "Now." She exhaled slowly and turned, brushing past him close enough to graze his shoulder. And neither of them spoke again. The next evening brought the charity gala, a mandatory royal obligation, full of diplomats, handshakes, and long, glittering speeches. She loathed them. Too tight dresses, too many cameras, too many men looking at her like they already owned her. But tonight, she didn't care about any of them. Only the man watching her from the shadows. As her lady's maid zipped up the scarlet gown that clung like molten silk, Juliana caught her reflection and tilted her chin higher. The dress was bold, reckless, a dare wrapped in diamonds. She wasn't dressing for the senators. She was dressing for the man who hadn't blinked last night when she slipped away. He wouldn't say a word about the slit running up her thigh or the way the neckline dipped lower than it should. But he'd see, and that would be enough. The city pulsed beneath a velvet night. From the rooftop terrace of the art museum, laughter drifted through champagne bubbles and the sound of a string quartet. Juliana leaned on the marble balustrade, her back to the crowd, watching the stars instead of the senator's son trying to impress her with his yacht. She wasn't listening. She was calculating. Connor Ward had been assigned to her 3 days ago, and he was already a problem. Always one step behind her, but too close when it mattered. He didn't flinch when she flirted, didn't blink when she tried to provoke. He wasn't like the others, which made him interesting and dangerous. She caught sight of him through the glass doors, towering in a tailored black suit, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Their eyes met. For half a second, neither looked away. She lifted her flute of champagne. He didn't move. She smiled, then slipped through the far archway and vanished. He noticed the silence first. Her earpiece buzzed with soft music, but no voice, no chatter, no sighs of boredom, no smart remark about the senator's hair. Then came the twist in his gut, the subtle one he'd learned in Kabul. When something looked too calm, Connor moved fast, cutting through the crowd like a knife through silk. When he reached the terrace, the senator was alone and confused. Her wine glass sat abandoned, lipstick smudged at the rim. He muttered a curse and tapped his comm. "Juliana, come in." No response. He checked the internal cameras, found her descending the maintenance stairs in heels and a red satin gown, moving like a woman with a plan. Of course, she was already 2 blocks away when the first raindrop fell. The hem of her gown dragged on the cobblestones. Her heels clicked over the old stones of the historical district. Dark, narrow alleys lit by golden lanterns and the occasional hum of a motorbike. But she knew this part of the city well, better than any of them realized. Until his voice echoed behind her. "Keep running, princess, I'm right behind you." She froze mid-step. He was there, just like that, silent as a shadow, soaked in midnight. She didn't turn, just said, "Was hoping I'd lost you." "You didn't." She pivoted slowly, the wind tugging her gown around her legs. He stepped closer. No weapon, no radio, just heat and rain and something dangerous in his eyes. "You left your security perimeter." His voice was low, steady. "I left a boring party. You left me." Her brows lifted. "You sound upset." "I'm not paid to feel," he replied, "but I'm paid to make sure you don't end up dead in an alley." She walked backward a step, smirking. "So what now? You going to cuff me and drag me back?" A pause. Then he moved. She didn't expect how fast. 1 second, there was space between them. The next, her back hit cool brick, and his arm braced just above her shoulder. Not touching, but close enough to feel the heat rolling off him. Close enough that her breath snagged in her throat. Rain dripped from his hair. His jaw was clenched, hard. His other hand hovered just a breath from her hip. "You don't get to disappear on me," he growled, "and you don't get to order me around." His voice dropped darker. "Try me again and see how that ends." Her chest rose with each breath. The space between them grew electric. Her eyes flicked to his mouth. Before she could stop them, he noticed. Of course he noticed, and still, he didn't move, didn't touch her, didn't kiss her, just stared, gaze hard and unreadable, while thunder cracked somewhere over the rooftops. She whispered, "You keep looking at me like that, Connor, and I'll start to think you want me." His voice was like gravel. "I'm your bodyguard, not your toy." She leaned up on her toes, her lips almost brushing his cheek. Pity. Then she slipped out from under his arm and disappeared down the alley, leaving him standing alone with the rain and his pulse pounding in his ears. He didn't follow, not immediately, because in that moment, he wasn't thinking like a bodyguard. He was thinking like a man. And that was exactly what made her dangerous. The car ride back to the palace was silent. Juliana sat on the left side of the back seat, legs crossed, gaze fixed on the raindrops streaking the tinted window. Connor sat opposite her, not speaking, not looking at her, but she felt him, his presence taking up the whole car. Stillness, like a coiled spring. Her heels were off. Her lipstick was slightly smudged, and her dress, clinging wetly to her skin, reminded her of every heartbeat she'd ignored tonight. She cleared her throat. "You don't talk much." He didn't answer right away, just said, "I talk when I need to." "And what about when you want to?" "I don't always want to." She studied him through her lashes. "Do you enjoy this?" "This?" "Plain statue, pretending you're just here for a paycheck." He turned his head, finally meeting her gaze in the dim car light. "If you think I'm pretending, Princess, you haven't pushed hard enough yet." Her stomach did that annoying flutter thing again. She leaned back with a half laugh, letting her head rest against the leather seat. The car curved through the palace gates, headlights washing over trimmed hedges and marble statues. She sighed. "You know," she said, softer now, "I don't actually like these galas. They're a prison in sequins. Everyone's smiling with knives in their hands." Connor watched her, but didn't interrupt. "My mother used to love them. She'd stand beside my father and beam like she believed the fairy tale. And I think she did. Until she didn't." Her voice faltered, just for a second. Then she shook it off. "Now they all look at me like I'm supposed to be her ghost." The car came to a stop under the awning. Rain tapped on the roof like impatient fingers. He didn't say he understood or offer sympathy. He just said, "You're not a ghost. You're a storm." That made her pause, made her chest ache in some strange, dangerous way. "You're not here to flatter me," she whispered. "I'm not," he said. "I'm just calling it like I see it." She didn't move, not yet, just stared at him while the rain spilled light over his face. Then she opened the door and slipped out. He waited 5 seconds, then followed. In the hallway outside her suite, the air felt warmer than usual, or maybe it was just her skin, still buzzing from everything unsaid. She turned to him at the door. "You'll be at the gala tomorrow." "Wouldn't miss it." "In the shadows, I assume?" "Always." She stepped closer, close enough that her perfume, velvet rose and soft spice, wrapped around him like a challenge. "Keep your eyes open then, soldier. The real games start tomorrow." And then she was gone, the door closing behind her with a soft finality that somehow echoed louder than a slam. He stood there for a long moment, just breathing, just thinking. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. The ballroom was a cathedral of gold and light, its ceiling lost somewhere above towering windows and cascading chandeliers. The air shimmered with music, violins tracing elegant loops through the hush of royalty, politicians, and polished manners. Juliana stood at the top of the grand staircase, letting them all wait. The silk of her gown caught every flicker of candlelight. Scarlet and sin, molded to her like a second skin. Her shoulders were bare, her back nearly so. The slit at her thigh swayed with threat. She was not dressed to be modest. She was dressed to be remembered. And when she began to descend, the room hushed without being told. Some whispered, others stared. She didn't care about any of them. Her eyes, sharp and glinting beneath lashes dusted in gold, scanned the ballroom until they found what they were looking for. Him, Connor Ward, shadow-bound, posture straight and arms crossed in the far corner of the room, clad in perfectly cut black, unmoving, unimpressed, and watching her like a secret no one else deserved to know. He didn't nod, didn't smile, but his jaw tightened the second her gown came fully into view. She smiled, subtle and sharp, and kept walking. He was ice, still, solid, but she could feel the heat in his gaze from across the room. The night moved in slow tides of formality, glass clinks, soft laughter, flattery wrapped in silk and silver. Juliana drifted through it like smoke. Every nod was practiced, every smile measured. Her presence was a performance, but only for one audience. She made sure to pass his line of sight again and again. At one point, she felt her earpiece whisper to life. "Left side," Connor said, "behind the man in gray. Don't let him get too close." Her lips barely curved. "So protective," she murmured under her breath. His voice came back low, smooth as steel. "So reckless." She said nothing, just tilted her head in that elegant, imperious way that meant message received, and maybe make me. A waiter approached with a fresh flute of champagne. Juliana accepted it gracefully, turning slightly, only for the glass to slip, just enough that the drink splashed her wrist. She tensed, eyes narrowing at the unexpected cold. Before anyone else reacted, he was there. Connor moved out of the shadows like he'd been summoned by instinct alone. Silent, controlled, deadly calm. He didn't speak as he stepped between her and the startled waiter. Didn't ask permission as he took a cloth napkin from the tray and reached for her hand. His touch was firm, businesslike. But when he wiped the wine from her skin, his fingers lingered. Just slightly, just long enough to make her breath catch. The cloth passed over the delicate curve of her wrist. His thumb brushed the inside of it, where her pulse beat harder than it should have. He looked up, and then their eyes met. It was the same moment it always was with him, still, locked, dangerous in its quiet. She didn't pull away. He didn't speak, and then, just as quickly, he was gone, back to the shadows. Later, she stepped toward the open terrace doors. The night breeze touched her shoulders like a secret. Moonlight spilled across the marble, and the air outside was cool, quieter, less gilded. She pressed her fingers to her earpiece and murmured, "Still watching?" There was a pause, long enough to make her lips twitch. Then, always, she smiled into the dark. "Are you enjoying the view?" Another pause, this one heavier. Immensely. She traced the edge of her own bare shoulder with her fingertips, slowly, knowing he might still be watching. "You're not supposed to be impressed, remember?" "I'm not." His voice was low and smooth in her ear. "I'm just paying attention." She turned then, letting the gown swirl around her legs like fire as she re-entered the ballroom. Back into the lion's den, back into his line of sight, and this time, she didn't look at him at all. But she didn't need to. She could feel it, the way he watched her every step, and he didn't look away, not once. The next song swelled, a lush waltz meant for elegance and spectacle, its rhythm a velvet pulse beneath the glint of chandeliers. Juliana moved deliberately to the center of the room, silk whispering against the marble floor, her presence impossible to ignore. She didn't rush. She wanted him to see every step. The music had barely begun when a foreign prince approached, tall, polished, princely in every way that meant boring, but useful. He bowed deeply and extended a hand. "Your Highness, may I have the honor?" Juliana smiled, not for him, but for the weight she could already feel in her ear. She accepted the offer with a gracious nod. Connor's voice came through the comms a second later, low, irritated, lethally calm. "That's Prince Marius, Minister of Defense's son, reputation for hands where they don't belong." She responded under her breath, lips barely moving as she let the prince draw her into the first sweeping steps. Jealous ward? Silence, then a clipped reply. Concerned. Oh, come on, she whispered, breath dancing with laughter as her back arched into the prince's hand, just slightly more than necessary. I'm perfectly safe. You're being reckless as usual. His voice was low. And you're being possessive. And then that silence again. The dangerous one. She leaned in toward the prince's ear, pretending interest as they spun slowly past Connor's corner. She didn't have to look. She knew exactly where he was. Maybe, she murmured, you should come stop me. And he did. In the middle of a turn, a shadow cut clean through the dancers. A larger hand reached in, firm and unapologetic. Excuse us, Connor said. His tone was polite. The steel in it was not. The prince stepped back, startled and insulted, but powerless. Juliana lifted her brows, amused, as Connor took her hand and waist without waiting for permission. Bold, she said softly, letting him guide her into the rhythm of the waltz. Jealousy doesn't suit you. I'm not jealous. Okay, you're not jealous. He pulled her closer with a grip, just shy of improper. I'm done watching you provoke trouble. The orchestra swelled. They moved through it like storm clouds, slow, precise, filled with unsaid things. His hand at her back was hot, heavy, like a claim. Her voice barely reached above a whisper. You keep touching me like this, people will talk. His answer came close to her temple, words wrapped in heat. Let them. Their eyes locked. No more teasing. The dance slowed further, no longer about the steps. Her breath hitched as his thumb brushed her bare shoulder. His palm at her waist settled lower than it had any right to. Her lashes dropped for just a moment. I don't need protection, she whispered, voice a breath against his throat. I'm not here to protect you, he said. I'm here to make sure you stop pretending that you don't want this. A beat passed, sharp, quiet. Then the music ended. They were still standing too close, still holding on. No applause, no bow, just that charged silence, the one that lived between danger and desire. She didn't pull away, neither did he, and the entire ballroom noticed. But for once, she didn't care. They didn't speak as they left the ballroom. Connor's hand at her back was firm, steering her through the maze of glittering guests and curious stares. No one dared stop them. No one dared ask. Juliana didn't resist, but she walked with fire in her spine. The palace halls were cooler, darker. Their footsteps echoed in long, deliberate rhythm as they moved through guarded corridors. When they reached the royal wing, he opened the door to her suite without waiting for a servant. Once inside, he closed it behind them with a soft, final click. Silence fell like velvet. Juliana stood in the center of the room, still in the scarlet gown, her hair loose from dancing, her skin flushed with warmth and defiance. She turned to face him slowly. "So, are we going to talk about what just happened out there?" "No." His tone was sharp and controlled, but he wasn't looking at her face. He was scanning the room, corners, windows, the subtle shift in the curtain where the wind hadn't reached. Then, security just flagged a threat. One of the stylists tipped off a tabloid about your wardrobe. A tracking device may have been embedded in tonight's ensemble. Juliana blinked. "Seriously?" He looked at her now. "I need to check it thoroughly before you're seen again." She tilted her head, stepping toward him with the slow grace of a woman who knew the power of every inch of her body. "So you want to help me undress?" He didn't flinch. "If that's what it takes." She gave him a look like flame meeting stone. "Go ahead then. Let's see how professional you really are." The room held its breath. Connor stepped forward, every motion deliberate, not a man caught off guard, but a man tightly reining himself in. He started with the hem, knelt. His hands, those deadly military calloused hands, moved up the slit of her gown, fingers brushing against her thigh, just enough to make her breath catch. He checked both sides, no device, no excuses. He rose slowly, eyes level with hers now. "Turn around." She did. His fingers found the hidden zipper along her spine. He worked it down in silence, the sound shockingly loud in the quiet room. Her bare back was revealed inch by inch. Her skin was warm. He didn't touch it, but he hovered, just close enough for her to feel the tension vibrating off him. The gown slid from her shoulders, pooled at her feet. She stood there bare but unashamed, eyes steady, breath shallow. Connor's gaze flicked down once, just once. Then he turned away, fast. "We're done here." His voice was rougher than it should have been, more human than usual. He took 2 steps toward the door, paused. "Wear something with fewer slits," he muttered, not looking back. She smiled, dangerously slow. "I don't think that's your real concern." He said nothing, didn't turn around. Then he was gone, and the door clicked shut behind him, leaving Juliana standing in the center of her room, half naked, breathless, and very, very not done. The safe house was an old hunting lodge, tucked deep in the countryside, where no cameras, no gossip, and no threats could reach them. But the silence here wasn't peace. It was isolation, and in that isolation, every unspoken thing between them echoed louder. Juliana stood in the stone entryway as the storm began to roll in. She stared at the heavy beams above, the aged fireplace, the dusty scent of pine and smoke. Everything here was still and old and quiet, like it hadn't been touched in years. She turned slowly. No staff, No one knows we're here but me, Connor replied, locking the door behind them. It's the only way to be sure. She gave a soft, dry laugh. Of course, you and your ghost fortress. He didn't rise to the bait. Instead, he walked the perimeter, checking locks, curtains, sight lines. She watched him from the shadows. The way he moved, efficient, coiled, always aware. He looked carved from stone, but something in his shoulders was tighter than usual. The ballroom had changed things. And now, here they were, tucked into a remote corner of the world, pretending the air wasn't thick with everything they hadn't said. Night fell fast. The storm hit harder. By the time they both reached the bedroom, the fire had been lit and the windows trembled with wind. Only one bed. Neither of them spoke about it. She disappeared into the bathroom to change. When she emerged, her long legs were bare beneath the hem of a faded sleep shirt. Her hair was brushed out, wild in a way it never was at the palace. Connor didn't look, not directly, but his hand stilled where he was unbuckling the side holster from his belt. She slid under the covers. He followed a few minutes later after double-checking every entry point again. Back to back, barely breathing. The mattress dipped beneath his weight. The sheets felt too thin, the space between them too narrow. They didn't touch, but they felt each other, heat radiating like static. Every shift, every breath was a ripple through the silence. Juliana stared at the dark ceiling, eyes wide open. He wasn't sleeping. She could tell by the way his breathing didn't even try to pretend. She shifted slightly. Her leg brushed the back of his. Just a whisper of contact. He didn't move. Then her hand, in her sleep or not, it drifted, brushed lightly across the bare skin of his arm. He froze. Her breath caught. The silence was a knife's edge. Then his voice, low, close. Go to sleep, Juliana. A pause. I can't, she whispered, not with you so close. A beat. Then quieter and not touching me. Lightning flashed outside. The flicker of white painted the room in ghost light for a heartbeat. He didn't answer, but she could feel it. The tension in his spine. The way his hand clenched beneath the covers. The war in him. She didn't push. She just stayed still, suspended in that impossible almost between safety and danger, want and restraint. Their breathing eventually matched. Back to back, skin warm, hearts racing. She didn't know when sleep finally took her. But even in dreams, she swore she felt him turn just slightly closer. Rain pounded the windows like impatient fingers, and the sky was iron gray, pressing, heavy, volatile. Inside the safe house, the tension from the night before hadn't lifted. It had thickened. Juliana sat, curled on the arm of a worn sofa, one leg tucked beneath her, flipping through a dossier Connor had left in the open. She hadn't spoken since they woke. He hadn't either. The air between them had been stiff, filled with things neither was ready to say. Then she moved, quietly, casually, too casually. She pulled on a hooded jacket, slipped a knife into the side pocket, and walked toward the door. Connor looked up from cleaning his gun. "Where are you going?" She didn't turn. "Just outside. I need air." "No." That single syllable was a lock slamming shut. Juliana froze. Her hand gripped the doorknob. "Excuse me? You don't go anywhere alone. Especially not now." Her voice turned to ice. "You can't keep me locked in a box because you're afraid of your own shadow." He stood, slowly. "It's not my shadow I'm worried about." She turned then, fire rising in her eyes. "I'm not a prisoner." "No," he said, closing the space between them in two slow, deliberate steps. "You're a target, and until I say otherwise, you don't leave my sight." Thunder cracked, loud, violent. They stood chest to chest, inches apart. The storm outside wasn't half as dangerous as the one between them. "You think because I was born in a palace, I don't know how to handle myself?" she snapped, jabbing a finger into his chest. "I've been escaping locked rooms since I was 12. "I'm not a locked room," he growled. "I'm the last line between you and whoever wants you dead." Her breath hitched. The words cut too close. "Right," she said after a beat, voice lower now. "So that's all I am to you? A job?" He didn't answer right away. His jaw tightened. His eyes flicked over her face like they were trying not to memorize it. "Don't," she said. "Don't stand there acting like you don't see it too." His voice came out quiet, rough. "You think I haven't noticed? Every time you walk into a room, it's all I can do. Not to." He stopped, fists clenched. Juliana's breath caught again. Lightning flashed through the windows. The power flickered. Her heart did the same. Connor's voice was barely audible. "You don't get it. If I start, I won't stop." That silenced her. Rain hammered the glass. Her chest rose and fell like she'd run a mile. The air between them buzzed, thick, electric, unspeakable. She could not resist. Her hand brushed his arm. Testing. Soft. He didn't move, didn't speak. But he didn't step back either. Their eyes locked. His voice, hoarse. "Juliana." Her whisper. "Then don't start. Just don't stop me either." They stood that way for one long second more, breath to breath, close enough for skin to tingle, for mouths to remember how close they'd come to forgetting themselves. Then he stepped back, just enough to hurt, just enough to save them both. "We can't," he said. She looked away, jaw tight. "No, you can't." And this time, when she walked away, he didn't stop her, but he watched the door until long after it closed. They returned to the palace, under the cover of night, just as they'd left it. No fanfare, no guards, no press, only shadows slipping back into golden hallways. Connor's posture had changed, a little tighter, a little more aware of the way his eyes lingered. Juliana's had too. She didn't flirt, didn't push, but when she looked at him now, there was something softer in her gaze, something less guarded, and someone noticed. It was her cousin Elise who said it first. She found Juliana in the west corridor 2 days later, perched on the ledge of an open window, sipping from a teacup she had no intention of finishing. "I heard about the security breach," Elise said, slipping beside her, long blonde hair still damp from her morning ride. "You all right?" Juliana shrugged, eyes on the distant courtyard. "Fine. Just a lot of fuss." Elise paused, studying her. "Funny," she said. "I've seen you bounce back from worse without looking like you're hiding something." Juliana glanced over, one brow lifting. "Hiding what exactly?" Elise leaned closer, her voice dropping. "Don't play dumb. You've been acting weird ever since you got back. Quiet, thoughtful, a little dreamy." "I am not dreamy," Juliana said flatly. "Mm-hmm. And your bodyguard hasn't looked at you like a man trying not to fall off a cliff." That made her pause. "I think you're imagining things." Elise smirked. "I think I'm not." Down in the courtyard, Connor stood near the archway, arms crossed, sunglasses on, despite the clouds, watching, always watching. He didn't look at them, but he didn't need to. Juliana stared too long. Elise caught it. "Oh my God." Juliana rolled her eyes. "It's nothing." "Nothing that sleeps in the same bed?" That earned a sharp look. Elise gasped. "You did. You totally did." "Nothing happened," Juliana said quietly. "But it could." Her cousin's grin turned sly. "And you wanted to." Juliana said nothing. Her silence was louder than words. A bit later that evening, in the dim hallway outside her chambers, Connor spoke without turning around. "She's watching us now." Juliana stepped up beside him, arms folded. "She always watches. She's just the first to say it." "Do I need to be more careful?" Juliana tilted her head, eyes narrowing. "Why?" she asked. "Are you planning on giving them something to talk about?" He didn't answer, but the corner of his mouth curved, barely, just enough. It wasn't supposed to happen again. After the safe house, Connor had made arrangements, double guards, overlapping shifts, separate quarters. But a late night security glitch forced a temporary lockdown in the north wing. Juliana found herself standing outside his door in a silk robe, arms crossed, eyes daring him to make her go back. He didn't. He opened the door, and the moment stretched. The room was dark, lit only by the fire he hadn't meant to light but had anyway, just in case she came. She stepped inside without a word, bare feet, bare legs, barely any distance between them. Connor locked the door behind her. They stood apart, but the air was thick, the kind of thick that hummed beneath your skin, that made you feel every heartbeat between words. Juliana sat at the edge of the sofa, her fingers curled around the stem of a crystal glass he handed her. Whiskey. Not that she touched it. He didn't sit beside her. He paced, quiet, measured, like a man trying to outwalk what was clawing at him inside. "You don't have to look at me like that," she said, finally, voice soft but cutting. He stopped. "Like what?" "Like you're waiting for me to say the thing you don't want to hear." His eyes met hers, dark, unflinching. "Say it." She rose slowly, crossed to him like gravity had decided to pull her his way. That silk robe moved like smoke around her legs. Her scent, jasmine and rain, filled the space between them. "You want me," she whispered. A pause. 1 second. 2. His jaw tensed. "Don't." "Why not?" "Because if I say it," he exhaled hard, "you'll be mine." Juliana's breath caught. "And if I don't want to be anyone's," she whispered. His voice dropped. "Then leave now." She didn't move, didn't blink. Instead, she raised a hand, touched the stubble along his jaw, the edge of his cheekbone, the line of a man who hadn't touched softness in years. His breath stuttered, and then she kissed him. No warning, no hesitation, just lips on lips, hot and aching and starved for contact. He didn't respond, not at first, but when her hand slid to the back of his neck, when her body pressed against his with a desperate little sigh, he broke. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her in with a growl like a man losing control. The kiss turned fierce, messy, breathless. Her fingers tangled in his shirt. His mouth claimed hers like he'd been dying for the taste. They didn't move toward the bed. They didn't speak. But when she gasped against his lips and whispered, "Connor," in that voice that was all velvet and heat, he pulled back, breathless, shaking, and rested his forehead against hers. "We stop here," he said, voice raw. Juliana was panting, lips kiss-bitten, cheeks flushed. Her whisper, "Why?" His answer was barely a sound. "Because if I take one more step, I won't be able to stop." She didn't move away. But she nodded, and they stood there in the dark, forehead to forehead, breath to breath, trembling, still and waiting for morning or permission or the next time one of them dared to fall first. They didn't talk about the kiss, not the next morning, not when she dressed in quiet defiance and walked 2 steps ahead of him down the corridor, not when he kept his eyes forward and his voice clipped, professional. But something had changed. The air between them crackled with unfinished things, and the palace noticed. First, it was her mother's advisor, a pale man with a vulture's gaze, who summoned Connor into a private chamber with too many locked drawers and not enough the windows. "You've gotten close," the man said, lacing his fingers on the desk. "Unusually close." Connor said nothing. "I've reviewed your files," he continued. "Highly decorated, loyal, dangerous." Connor remained still. But dangerous things lose control, especially when entangled. "I follow protocol," Connor replied, voice low. The man smiled thinly. "You follow her." Connor's jaw flexed. "This family has enemies," the advisor said, rising slowly. "You were hired to protect the princess, not complicate her." Connor's silence was steel, but inside, something twisted. Juliana felt it too. Later that day, in a meeting with the Interior Council, she caught sight of Connor standing post by the door, rigid, distant. Their eyes met. A flicker, a whisper of something just beneath the surface. Then it was gone. He looked away, dismissed, and for the first time, it stung. That night, she found him training in the private gym, shirt off, hands wrapped, sweat clinging to him like second skin. She watched from the doorway. "You're avoiding me," she said quietly. He didn't turn. "Orders changed," he said. "I was advised to keep distance." She stepped closer. "Advised by who?" He didn't answer. Her voice dropped. "You kissed me back." His fist slammed into the punching bag once, hard enough to rattle the chains. She flinched. He finally turned. His eyes burned. "I'm trying to protect you," he growled. "From threats, from scrutiny, from myself." Juliana walked up to him slowly, every step deliberate. "And if I don't want to be protected?" she asked. His breath hitched. "Then you're a bigger danger than any bullet," he murmured, and he walked away. But outside the gym, in the shadows, someone watched. Someone who had everything to gain from tearing them apart, and everything to lose if they didn't. The day began in silk and silver, a diplomatic luncheon in the palace gardens, white linen tents, crystal glasses catching the sunlight, foreign dignitaries shaking hands like every word wasn't sharpened with double meanings. Juliana wore pale blue, a soft smile, and a necklace that glittered like innocence. Connor wore black, no smile, no pretense. But something was wrong. He felt it before he saw it. The shift in the air, the pattern, break in the flow of movement, the wrong waiter's hand twitching near his pocket, and then gunfire. The chaos was instant. Guests screamed, chairs crashed, guards scrambled to form a shield around the princess. But she was already running toward the sound, toward him. He got to her first, threw her down behind a marble column, shielded her body with his own. "Stay down," he barked. "Connor." Another shot cracked. He reacted quickly, fired once, twice, dropped the shooter clean. But a third shot, he didn't see it coming. It hit him just under the ribs. Juliana heard the sound, not the gunfire, but the gasp. The sudden silence of a man who'd never made a sound before. Her hands were on him instantly. Blood was blooming through his shirt, dark and shocking and hot against her palms. "Don't you dare," she whispered, voice trembling. "Don't you dare go quiet on me." His eyes were still sharp, still focused, even as he staggered, even as she caught him and pulled him down with her. "I've got you," she whispered, breath hitching. "Connor, look at me." He did. He always did. "Is this your idea of distance?" she asked, choking on a laugh and a sob at once. His mouth quirked, painful, barely there, bleeding, not kissing. He rasped, "Much safer." "You idiot." She pressed her forehead to his, blood between them, heartbeat wild in her throat. "You stupid, loyal, brave idiot." His hand, soaked and shaking, rose to brush her cheek. "You're safe," he said. Then his eyes fluttered, and Juliana, princess of nothing but chaos and fire and fury, screamed for help like the world was ending. Because in that moment, if he didn't wake up, it just might. The hospital wing was still. Hours had passed, maybe more. Juliana sat beside the bed, legs folded beneath her, Connor's hand clutched in both of hers like it was an anchor. And she was adrift in a storm only he could calm. Machines beeped softly. Curtains swayed in the open window. Outside, the moon rose like a watchful eye. He looked pale, too pale, but he was breathing. Her fingers brushed his again and again, needing the contact, needing to feel that he was still tethered to this world. "You idiot," she whispered. "You said not to get close." His lashes didn't flicker. "And then you go and bleed all over me, real subtle, Ward." Still nothing. Juliana leaned in, lips close to his ear. Her voice dropped to the quietest murmur. "I can't lose you," she said. Her thumb traced the edge of his knuckles. Her eyes burned, but the tears had already come and gone. "I didn't ask for you," she whispered. "Didn't want this, any of it. Especially not you." Silence. "But now you're in me, like gravity, like blood, like breath." Still nothing. Her head bowed. She rested her cheek to the back of his hand and closed her eyes. Then a twitch, faint, barely there, but her eyes snapped open. His fingers moved, then his lips. Then, "Juliana," he rasped. She shot upright. "Hey, I'm here." His eyes opened, unfocused, but they found her. "You look like hell," he whispered. She laughed, breath catching. "You're not exactly runway ready yourself." He tried to shift, winced. "Bullet? Missed anything vital? You're lucky." "I don't believe in luck." She leaned in. "Then believe in me." Their eyes locked. He blinked slowly, like every movement cost him. And then, "I heard what you said," he murmured. "When you thought I was gone." Juliana stilled. Her breath hitched. "You weren't supposed to." "I always hear you," he whispered again. A pause. Then his fingers curled around hers, weak but certain. "I didn't ask for you either," he said, "but I can't undo it now." Silence stretched again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was full, heavy, electric. "I should let you rest," she whispered, half standing. His grip tightened. "Stay." Just one word, but her heart flipped. She sat back down. He closed his eyes again, still holding her hand. And in the hush of that hospital wing, Juliana knew something irreversible had happened. They weren't protecting each other anymore. They were falling, and there was no stopping the fall. 10 days later, Connor wasn't cleared for duty yet. The bullet wound, they said. Recovery. Rest. But that didn't stop him from putting on a tailored suit, slipping into the ballroom shadow just before the night began, and scanning the crowd for her. Juliana, wearing black, a column of midnight silk clinging to her like shadow and sin. Hair swept up, neck bare, eyes sharp, and on her arm, Lucian veil, heir to a media empire, once her fiancé. Still a thorn in her freedom, Connor's jaw clenched as he watched them glide across the floor. Lucian smiling down at her like she was something he still owned. And Juliana? Her smile was brittle glass. She saw Connor the moment she turned, paused mid-step, eyes locked. Then she turned away, but not before he saw the flicker in her gaze, not before he saw that she wasn't okay. Lucian leaned down, murmuring something too soft for anyone else to hear. Juliana stiffened, pulled her arm from his. "Don't pretend we're still something," she said coldly. "We could be again," he said, smiling. "You think your pet bodyguard will protect you from me? From the life you left behind?" Juliana laughed, low and lethal. "I didn't leave the life. I left you." Lucian's smile curdled. "I made you," he hissed, "without my name. You're just another pretty royal with a headline problem." A familiar voice interrupted. She doesn't need your name. Connor, standing too close now, still too pale, but on his feet, between them. Juliana's breath caught. Lucian scoffed. Ah, the hired help. Still bleeding, I see. Connor's eyes narrowed. She told you no, he said, voice like steel wrapped in calm. Walk away. Lucian leaned in, voice oily. You think you'll keep her? With that scar? With your past? She'll tire of playing rebel. Connor didn't blink. She's not playing. Lucian's smile cracked. Then he walked off. Not defeated, but not victorious either. And when the crowd swallowed him up, Juliana exhaled for the first time in minutes. A bit later, when they stood alone beneath the balcony arch, city lights blinking far below, she turned to Connor. You should be resting still. I'm not letting you face men like him alone. He's nothing. Connor studied her. You shook. Her jaw clenched. He used to make me feel small. Connor stepped closer. You're not small. Her eyes lifted to his. You didn't even flinch. She whispered. He shrugged. I'd take another bullet for you. Scars heal. And what if I'm the one who breaks you? His hand came up, brushing her cheek, thumb ghosting her lips. You already are, he said quietly. Her breath caught, and this time, when she leaned in first, he didn't stop her. The kiss was slower than the last, deeper, with all the sharp edges filed down by pain and want and choice. When they pulled apart, he whispered, Let me protect you from the past. And she answered, Then stay in my future. It wasn't a scandal, not yet, but it would be. Juliana stood in the throne room, the morning light streaming across marble, casting gold at her feet like the sun had chosen her. Her parents sat stiffly on their thrones, protocol curled around them like chains. Connor stood just behind her, unarmed but unafraid. Juliana took a breath. I'm not marrying Lucian. Silence. Her mother's fingers clenched the edge of her chair. Her father's expression didn't flinch, but his voice did. We discussed this. No, she said, voice calm. You decided it. I endured it. And what do you plan to do? Her mother snapped. Run off with the bodyguard. Juliana didn't look back at him. She didn't need to. I don't plan to run anywhere. Another pause. Her father stood. You'll destroy your standing, your security. You think love will protect you from what's coming? Connor's voice came then, quiet but absolute. No. I will. They all turned to look at him. He stepped forward, not to speak for her, just to stand beside her, to be seen. Juliana reached for his hand, intertwined fingers, a vow without words. Protocol is ash, she said softly, and I'm choosing what rises from it. That night, they didn't hide. There were no shadows, no palace walls, just the safe house, now lit by candles and breathless peace. Her dress pooled at her feet, his shirt came undone under her hands. They didn't speak as they moved, only watched, only touched, as if memorizing one another with reverence and ruin. When dawn crept through the curtains, she was in his shirt, legs tangled with his, coffee in hand. "You're staring," she whispered. "You're mine," he answered. Outside the world stirred. Threats still lingered, but they were no longer running. They were together. A year later, the headlines screamed, "Princess Juliana marries former bodyguard in secret ceremony." But she didn't care. He kissed her hand in public now. She wore his scars like diamonds. And when danger reared its head again, it found them back to back, unflinching, bound by more than duty, bound by choice, bound by love. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's story. Good night and sweet dreams.